The final rites, death ceremonies and spiritual transitions. The guardian of sacred passages. In the sacred mortuary chambers adjacent to Tenochtitlan's Templo Maya, where ancient death wisdom guided spiritual transitions through elaborate funeral ceremonies and divine preparation, enabled souls to navigate the treacherous journey to their eternal destinations. Itzel Mictlampa, the most revered death ritual coordinator in the empire, supervised the preparation of final rites for 7 departed souls whose diverse spiritual circumstances required customized ceremonial approaches, while understanding that authentic sacred passage required not merely ritual performance, but systematic, divine guidance that could ensure spiritual protection during afterlife transition, provide proper offerings for underworld deities, and facilitate successful soul navigation, serving both individual spiritual welfare and cosmic balance through generations of accumulated death wisdom and mythological understanding. The morning ceremonial preparation session involved coordinating elaborate death rites for souls destined for different afterlife realms according to Aztec cosmological understanding, where manner of death determined spiritual destination, requiring specialized ritual preparation and divine guidance appropriate to specific underworld journeys and eternal spiritual states. Young warrior Nakali, who died in battle, requires preparation for the eastern paradise of Tonatia, where fallen warriors accompany the sun god during his daily journey across the sky, while elderly Sitlali, who died in childbirth, needs spiritual guidance for reaching the western realm of Siwatalampa, where women who died giving life join the divine feminine hosts. Itzel explained while consulting the death ritual codex that recorded appropriate ceremonies for different afterlife destinations. Each spiritual journey demands specific sacred objects, protective prayers and divine offerings that will ensure safe passage through underworld dangers and successful arrival at assigned eternal destinations. This ceremonial analysis reflected the sophisticated spiritual understanding that characterized Aztec death practices, where funeral preparation served cosmic purposes through systematic attention to mythological requirements, divine guidance, and spiritual protection, enabling successful afterlife transitions for departed souls. The afterlife destination determination required careful analysis of death circumstances, life achievements, and spiritual preparations that would influence soul journey requirements, while providing frameworks for appropriate ceremonial approaches and divine guidance necessary for successful underworld navigation and eternal spiritual welfare. Afterlife destination assessment indicates 3 souls bound for Tlalocan, the paradise of rain god Tlaloc, reserved for those who died by drowning, lightning, or water-related diseases, plus 2 souls journeying to Mictlan, the neutral underworld requiring 4-year spiritual trials before reaching final rest. Analyzed Yaotl, the spiritual coordinator who maintained expertise in death categorization and afterlife journey requirements, supporting appropriate ceremonial preparation and divine guidance provision. This destination analysis provided essential frameworks for ceremonial customization while ensuring that death rites served specific spiritual needs rather than generic funeral procedures that failed to address individual soul journey requirements and mythological destination characteristics. The sacred object preparation involved systematic assembly of spiritual tools, protective amulets, and divine offerings that would accompany souls during their afterlife journeys while providing essential spiritual protection and divine favor necessary for successful underworld navigation and safe arrival at eternal destinations. The sacred object collections included obsidian knives for cutting through spiritual obstacles during underworld travel, jade ornaments representing eternal life and divine protection, copal incense for purifying soul essence and communicating with underworld deities, and specially prepared food offerings, sustaining souls during extended spiritual journeys through mythological landscapes. Sacred object preparation requires blessing procedures that activate spiritual protection, ceremonial arrangement according to mythological requirements, and proper timing coordination ensuring spiritual effectiveness during critical afterlife transition moments. Detailed Sitlali, the ritual specialist who managed ceremonial object preparation and ensured appropriate spiritual activation of protective materials supporting soul journey safety and divine guidance. This object preparation demonstrated sophisticated understanding of spiritual protection while providing practical tools for afterlife navigation through systematic attention to mythological requirements and divine blessing procedures serving soul spiritual welfare and cosmic balance. The underworld journey guidance involved providing detailed spiritual instruction about mythological dangers, protective procedures, and divine relationships that souls would encounter during their afterlife transitions while ensuring proper spiritual preparation for underworld challenges and eternal destination requirements. Underworld journey instruction includes guidance for navigating the 9 levels of Mictlan with their specific challenges and required spiritual responses, protection against mythological monsters and spiritual obstacles, and proper protocols for approaching underworld deities whose favor determines successful passage and eternal spiritual welfare, explained Zohital, the mythological specialist who maintained comprehensive knowledge of afterlife geography and spiritual requirements, supporting soul journey preparation and divine protection. This journey guidance provided essential spiritual education while ensuring that departing souls possessed necessary knowledge for afterlife navigation through systematic instruction in mythological understanding and divine relationship management serving both individual spiritual welfare and cosmic spiritual order. The family spiritual preparation involved coordinating community participation in death ceremonies while providing emotional support and spiritual guidance for bereaved families, whose proper mourning observance was essential for both individual healing and successful soul transition to eternal destinations. Family preparation includes instruction in proper mourning procedures that honor departed souls while supporting their spiritual journey, coordination of community participation in death ceremonies demonstrating collective spiritual support, and ongoing spiritual guidance helping families process grief while maintaining cosmic balance, outlined Milintica, the family coordinator who specialized in community death ritual participation and bereavement spiritual guidance, supporting both individual family welfare and collective spiritual health. This family integration ensured comprehensive spiritual support while demonstrating how death ceremonies served both individual soul needs and community spiritual welfare through systematic attention to mourning procedures and collective spiritual participation in sacred transition processes. The divine communication procedures involved systematic consultation with death deities whose guidance was essential for ensuring proper ceremonial performance while obtaining divine approval for afterlife journey preparation and spiritual protection for departing souls navigating mythological underworld dangers. Divine communication includes formal consultation with Mictlan Tenochtitlan, Lord of the Underworld who governs soul passage through Mictlan's spiritual trials, plus invocation of Mictlan Cihuatl, Lady of Death who provides protection for souls and guidance for bereaved families during mourning periods, reported Itzpapalotl, the divine communication specialist who managed relationships with death deities and ensured appropriate spiritual consultation supporting ceremonial authenticity and soul spiritual protection. This divine consultation provided spiritual authentication while ensuring that death ceremonies received appropriate divine blessing and guidance necessary for successful afterlife transitions through systematic communication with underworld deities and spiritual protection authorities. The ceremonial timing coordination involved careful correlation of death ritual scheduling with calendar influences, astronomical events, and seasonal spiritual patterns that affected both ceremonial effectiveness and soul journey timing, according to cosmic spiritual requirements and mythological understanding. Ceremonial timing requires coordination with tonal holy calendar influences affecting spiritual energy patterns, astronomical alignments enhancing divine communication and soul journey success, and seasonal spiritual conditions optimizing ceremonial effectiveness and divine favor. Calculated Nekali, the temporal coordinator who maintained calendar expertise supporting optimal timing for death ceremonies and afterlife transition spiritual requirements. This timing coordination ensured ceremonial effectiveness while demonstrating sophisticated understanding of cosmic influences on spiritual activities through systematic attention to calendar requirements and astronomical patterns affecting divine communication and soul journey success. The purification ritual procedures involved systematic cleansing of ceremonial spaces, spiritual preparation of participants, and divine blessing of death ceremony materials while ensuring appropriate spiritual environment for sacred transition processes and divine communication with underworld authorities. Purification procedures include comprehensive cleansing of mortuary chambers using copal incense and blessed water, spiritual preparation of ceremony participants through fasting and prayer, and divine blessing of sacred objects and ceremonial materials, ensuring spiritual effectiveness and divine approval. Detailed Tenochtitlan, the purification specialist who managed ceremonial spiritual preparation and ensured appropriate sacred environment for death ritual performance and divine communication. This purification approach provided spiritual foundation for ceremonial authenticity while ensuring that death rites occurred within properly consecrated spiritual environments, supporting both divine communication and soul spiritual protection through systematic cleansing and blessing procedures. The soul journey visualization involved creating detailed spiritual maps and mythological understanding that enabled departing souls to navigate afterlife geography while providing visual spiritual guidance for underworld travel and divine relationship management during eternal destination arrival. Soul journey visualization includes detailed instruction in Mictlan's 9 levels with their specific spiritual challenges, guidance for recognizing divine beings and mythological entities encountered during underworld travel, and spiritual preparation for approaching eternal destination requirements and divine judgment procedures, explained Yautla during spiritual instruction coordination supporting comprehensive afterlife journey preparation and soul spiritual education. This visualization guidance provided essential spiritual education while ensuring that departing souls possessed comprehensive understanding of afterlife requirements through systematic instruction in mythological geography and divine relationship protocols, serving soul spiritual welfare and successful eternal transition. The memorial preservation procedures involved creating lasting spiritual connections between departed souls and living family members while establishing ongoing spiritual relationships that honored soul memory and provided continued divine protection for both departed spirits and bereaved communities. Memorial preservation includes establishment of household shrines, maintaining spiritual connection with departed souls, periodic ceremonial observances honoring soul memory and requesting continued spiritual protection, and ongoing family spiritual practices ensuring continued divine relationship and community spiritual welfare. Coordinated sitlali during memorial planning activities, supporting lasting spiritual connections and continued divine protection for families and departed souls. This memorial approach provided frameworks for ongoing spiritual relationships while ensuring that death ceremonies created lasting spiritual connections rather than final spiritual separations through systematic attention to memorial observance and continued divine relationship maintenance. The community spiritual education involved teaching death ritual understanding, afterlife preparation procedures, and mourning observance requirements that enabled community members to participate appropriately in death ceremonies while understanding spiritual requirements and cosmic purposes served by funeral rites and soul transition processes. Community education includes instruction in proper mourning behavior and ceremonial participation requirements, education regarding afterlife journey understanding and spiritual preparation needs, and guidance for supporting bereaved families through appropriate spiritual assistance and community participation, outlined Zokitil during educational program coordination, supporting community spiritual participation and death ritual understanding. This educational approach built community spiritual knowledge while ensuring informed participation in death ceremonies through systematic instruction in spiritual requirements and appropriate ceremonial behavior, serving both individual spiritual development and collective spiritual welfare. The death prophecy interpretation involved analyzing spiritual omens, divine communications, and mythological signs that provided guidance for death ceremony customization while ensuring appropriate spiritual responses to divine instructions and cosmic spiritual requirements affecting soul journey preparation and ceremonial effectiveness. Death prophecy interpretation includes analysis of spiritual omens, indicating appropriate ceremonial approaches, interpretation of divine communications providing guidance for specific soul spiritual needs, and evaluation of cosmic spiritual conditions affecting afterlife journey timing and ceremonial requirements. Analyzed Itzpapalotl during prophecy coordination activities supporting customized spiritual guidance and divine instruction implementation. This prophetic analysis provided divine guidance for ceremonial customization while ensuring that death rites responded appropriately to spiritual communications and cosmic conditions affecting soul journey requirements and divine protection needs. The cross-cultural death coordination involved managing death ceremonies for diverse ethnic communities within imperial territories while respecting regional spiritual traditions and incorporating local death customs within broader Aztec mythological frameworks and ceremonial requirements. Cross-cultural coordination includes accommodation of regional death customs and spiritual traditions within imperial ceremonial frameworks, integration of local mythological understanding with Aztec afterlife cosmology, and coordination with ethnic community spiritual leaders ensuring cultural respect and spiritual authenticity, detailed Milintica during cultural coordination planning, supporting inclusive death ritual practices and regional spiritual accommodation. This cultural integration provided frameworks for inclusive spiritual services while maintaining essential spiritual requirements through accommodation of regional traditions and respectful integration of diverse spiritual understanding within comprehensive death ceremony coordination. The advanced death ritual training involved educating apprentice death coordinators in complex spiritual procedures, mythological understanding, and divine communication techniques necessary for authentic death ceremony performance, while preserving traditional spiritual knowledge across generations of spiritual practitioners. Advanced training includes comprehensive mythological education covering afterlife geography and spiritual requirements, practical instruction in ceremonial procedures and divine communication techniques, and supervised experience in death ritual coordination, ensuring professional spiritual competence and traditional knowledge preservation. Outlined Tenochtitlan during educational program development, supporting continued availability of qualified death ritual specialists and spiritual guidance services. This training approach ensured institutional continuity while maintaining spiritual expertise through systematic education and knowledge preservation, supporting continued community access to authentic death ceremony coordination and spiritual guidance. The crisis death response procedures involved providing emergency spiritual services for unexpected deaths, mass casualty situations, and urgent spiritual circumstances requiring immediate ceremonial intervention while maintaining spiritual effectiveness and divine protection despite abbreviated preparation time. Crisis response protocols include emergency ceremonial procedures for sudden death situations, mass death ceremony coordination during epidemic or warfare circumstances, and urgent spiritual guidance for unusual death circumstances requiring immediate divine consultation and spiritual protection, coordinated Nakali during emergency planning activities, supporting comprehensive spiritual services regardless of death circumstances or timing constraints. These emergency capabilities provided essential spiritual services while ensuring community access to death ritual coordination during challenging circumstances through systematic emergency procedures and crisis spiritual guidance, maintaining divine protection and soul spiritual welfare. The spiritual outcome evaluation involved systematic assessment of ceremonial effectiveness, soul journey success indicators, and family spiritual welfare following death ceremony completion, while maintaining ongoing evaluation of death ritual quality and spiritual guidance effectiveness, serving continuous improvement and traditional knowledge validation. Spiritual evaluation includes assessment of ceremonial spiritual effectiveness through divine communication and spiritual observation, evaluation of family spiritual welfare and community healing following death ceremony completion, and ongoing monitoring of traditional knowledge accuracy and spiritual guidance quality, reported Yaotl during evaluation coordination activities, supporting continuous spiritual service improvement and traditional wisdom validation. This evaluation approach ensured spiritual service quality while providing frameworks for continuous improvement through systematic assessment of ceremonial effectiveness and spiritual guidance outcomes, serving both individual spiritual welfare and collective spiritual service excellence. As evening approached, and daily death ceremony preparations concluded with final spiritual blessings and afterlife journey instruction for departing souls, Itzel reflected on the profound spiritual responsibility that death ritual coordination entailed. These sacred ceremonies served not merely human emotional needs, but also cosmic spiritual requirements, connecting individual soul welfare with universal spiritual balance through systematic attention to divine guidance and mythological understanding. The death ritual coordinators who provided these comprehensive spiritual services served as essential guardians of sacred passages whose expertise enabled successful soul transitions while maintaining cosmic spiritual balance through systematic ceremonial excellence and divine relationship management, serving both individual spiritual welfare and collective cosmic harmony. Through careful attention to spiritual preparation, divine guidance, ceremonial authenticity, and cosmic requirements, death ritual coordination created frameworks for successful afterlife transitions that honored both individual soul needs and universal spiritual balance through systematic spiritual service and divine relationship management. The final rites of the Aztec Empire represented sophisticated integration of spiritual wisdom, mythological understanding, and ceremonial excellence that enabled successful soul transitions through systematic attention to divine guidance, cosmic requirements, and spiritual protection, serving both individual afterlife welfare and universal spiritual harmony. The spiritual wisdom they preserved became foundations of cosmic spiritual balance that enabled individuals to achieve successful afterlife transitions while contributing to collective spiritual welfare through proper death ceremony observance and divine relationship maintenance, serving both soul spiritual needs and cosmic spiritual order. Final rites served as cornerstone of spiritual transition that connected individual soul welfare with cosmic spiritual balance while maintaining ceremonial traditions that honored both mythological understanding and divine guidance through systematic attention to afterlife preparation and spiritual protection in service to both human spiritual needs and cosmic spiritual harmony. The sacred passages they facilitated became bridges between earthly existence and eternal spiritual destinations that enabled authentic soul transitions while providing comprehensive spiritual support for both departing souls and bereaved communities through systematic ceremonial excellence and divine guidance, serving both individual spiritual welfare and collective cosmic spiritual balance through sacred death ritual coordination and spiritual passage facilitation.